Hey, Next Levelers, welcome to the Next Level Show. This is Bob Gibbons, your host, and we're here today with Rusty Barrier and Tricia Seymour with Ed4Credit.com. And guess what? You can find them online at Ed4Credit.com, and the 4 is the numeral 4, not spelled out. So Ed, E-D, 4, the number 4, credit, C-R-E-D-I-T.com. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having us.
So what in the world is Ed4Credit?
Yeah, well, it was an exciting opportunity. We have been in online education for a while, and we were invited to be a part of a Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation grant.
Oh, my.
And that's pretty impressive.
That's a big name right there.
Yeah. I wish they paid us money. They didn't. Unfortunately, they paid for our accreditation is what they paid for.
Oh, okay.
And the marketing for the company.
Yeah,
but
and the grant didn't actually go to us. It was through the American Council on Education.
Yeah.
And they were the ones that asked us to come and participate.
Sure.
So it was.
But it was great because there were like 200 people that could have participated, and they selected 7, and we were among some really prestigious people like MIT. You've heard of them?
edX.
Never.
Yeah.
and Pearson, which is a big book company.
Yeah.
But what their goal was to create low-cost college credits, college classes. So they invited companies like us. We're not a school. They invited corporations like us to come and create classes, have them accredited just like a college would, and then really offer them for deep discounted prices so that students could get their first 2 years of school, gen ed, out of the way really fast and really cheap.
Huh. Now, why was that a part of the mission of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation?
Education has always been a big part of their foundation. They've given a lot of money to that, and they looked at the fact that college debt is just killing the folks coming out of school right now. Also, it is a huge barrier to people who want to go back to school, and that was really their target market, was folks who had started school, life happened, they had families, they were in careers, and they wanted to go back, but they didn't, one, have the time, and 2, the finances were just crippling to a lot of people.
When a student comes out of college at even 21, let alone an adult going back to school, and they come out with $100,000 in debt, and then they go get a job at McDonald's or even an entry-level position in a corporation.
Yeah.
They can't afford it.
It's interesting you say that because both of my kids who are now grown past college, they've both come back to us and said, thank you so much for paying for our college so that we didn't come out with all this debt. Practically every friend they have has huge debt.
Huge, right.
And in fact, one of our, I couldn't believe this story, one of a friend told us that he basically got dropped off at colleges and his parents said, and by the way, we took out loans in your name.
Right.
And I was like, wait a minute, how could they do that without him knowing it? That just seemed bizarre. But anyway, yeah, the debt problem is not just a problem. It seems like it's a crisis. I mean, you're already falling behind before you even get started.
What is it? You come out of school that much in debt. Now you've got that on your record. You might get a car, but you're sure not going to get a mortgage, which has been part of the challenge with students coming out and getting into the real estate community as well. That's why you look at the millennials that aren't buying houses as fast as some of the rest of us did. So it just becomes a huge burden even on the economy, not just on the individual. So that's why the Gates Foundation went and said, we've got to do something to stop this, or at least alleviate it.
Let's see if we can make a difference is basically what they did. And again, their market was actually not the traditional student, but the non-traditional student who's becoming more traditional now. There's more and more people going back to school later in life. And so what they looked at was the person who had a little bit of college, maybe they got a couple classes, maybe even a whole year, but then they got married, had kids, had jobs, and just couldn't go back. Never saw a way back.
And the sad part is, even though they never got their degree, they may still have debt up to that point.
No, right.
It doesn't go away.
Right. And a lot of people want to get farther in their job or get a new job, and they can't do that without the college degree. We believe that not everybody needs a college degree. The other parts of our business, we do skilled trades and we do other kind of training, but those that want it and those that need it for their career path, it should be affordable, or at least affordable enough that they aren't, crippled.
So how did the Gates Foundation find you guys?
Again, they didn't find us directly. It was the American Council of Education.
Okay.
And that's a rather interesting story. We have a gentleman that works for us. Are you familiar with the movie 12 Strong?
I think I've heard of it. I don't think
it's
I've watched
about the first U.S. forces in Afghanistan after 9/11.
Okay.
Well, Mike was one of those first people there. He was in Special Forces. And he's a sales rep for us, and he was at a convention up in the Northeast. And this woman from ACE walked up to him, and they were talking, and she had an unusual last name.
And he was promoting us anyway. He was just
Right.
promoting our career training. No, we didn't have college training at that point. So.
Okay.
So he asked her, and he says, I know this is going to sound weird, but do you know so-and-so with the same last name? And she started laughing. She says, that's my husband. Well, this was his commanding officer in Afghanistan. So they hit it off immediately, and she says, by the way, from what you're telling me, you need to be a part of this project with us. And so
And will you please apply? Please go apply. It's going to close in like 2 weeks. Please go apply.
Oh,
So
wow.
we applied for it, and we got accepted.
Nice.
Yeah, she was a board member at the American Council of Education.
Well, that's also that 6 degrees of separation.
is.
You know,
It
it's
is.
basically you may not know the right person, but they may know somebody who knows somebody. So it's always
Yeah.
about putting out there what it is you do and what you want, and that's a big part of being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And it's also the synchronicities that happen when you're an entrepreneur, the things that just appear in front of you that you had no way of planning for or even knowing about until that opportunity arises.
Sure.
So that's how we came there.
So then we had to go through the accreditation process. So they picked 7 companies, and 6 of them had already been through the process with the American Council on Education. We were the only one that they had never talked to, seen, or done anything with our classes. And what was great was that because Rusty and I both had been college adjunct faculty, college professors,
Okay.
and both had taught online, we knew how to make online college classes at that level. And we were the only one that they didn't have to, in the first review, they didn't have to go, you need to fix this, and you need to fix that, you need to fix that. And they went, you guys understand what we're talking about.
Nice.
And that was like cool. You know, it's great. When you're a small mom and pop and an entrepreneur, you don't always get the kudos. You get a lot of, I have a problem, fix my problem. And you're like, ah. So it's really nice when you get those. You really
Absolutely.
like, savor them.
And it's really good for the ego when you find out that edX and MIT and Harvard had to fix problems that we didn't have to fix.
I know. That is kind of cool.
You wouldn't rub their nose in it, though, would
No,
you?
not at all.
You're above
No,
that.
no.
Maybe just now, but
Just when you're on the air.
Just on the air. Yeah, that's it.
So what kind of classes do you guys produce?
they for the Ed4Credit, it's general ed classes. So all the things that you have to take your freshman and sophomore year: intro to psych, intro to soc, English, world history. I think that surprisingly our biggest seller is art appreciation.
Film appreciation.
Film. Oh yeah.
Everybody has to have humanities, and film appreciation
Yeah.
is one of the big ones.
Might as well have that one.
Yeah, right.
That sounds a lot more fun than a lot of others
Yeah.
choices you could make.
We do have a few that are approved for upper level. We have some management and marketing and some psych classes that are approved for upper level. And so what's interesting is now that we've been doing this all the Bill Gates stuff happened in 2015. Now that we've been doing this for a few years, we're seeing what the market needs and what our competitors have and what versus what we have.
Okay.
And so we also work with colleges, over 2,000 colleges in the country, that will then accept our classes and will transfer them in. But it's been funny because we've seen the college student, the traditional student, who's like right towards graduation. They're like, oh, man, my guidance counselor just said I needed to
Yes.
get blah, blah. Oh, I need 3 more classes. I need 3 more hours in, psych. Crap.
That is amazing to me how that happened, because that happened
And
to
then
my
they
kids
come to
as well.
us.
Well, yeah. I mean, it makes sense because it seems like there should be a very clear roadmap, and I'm always amazed at how frequently
changes,
that exact
right?
thing happens very late in somebody's degree plan.
I know, and that's been a shock. That really wasn't our market. We weren't going after the people who need one class here and there. But yeah, it's been funny to see that. I can't graduate until I get, okay, come over here.
So whenever this, the Gates Foundation funded this grant, and then this organization came to you, did they tell you which classes you needed to create, or did you just show them what you already had?
A little bit of both.
Right.
We did tell them we showed them what we had and what we'd been working on, and then they were trying to get a certain number of classes. I forget the number that they were shooting for.
And a variety. They were looking for a
Right.
specific variety.
Right.
So they actually did pay for 13 classes to be approved, and then we've gone ahead and gotten additional classes accredited since then. So we now have 40 classes. So it's basically your first 2 years of school.
That's amazing.
And by the way, you could take the first 2 years of school with us, and not all schools will transfer in that much credit, but there are some that will, and your cost would be under $4,000 for the entire first 2 years.
Wow.
Right.
Oh.
What they wanted was turnkey. So when we created the classes, we created them with books, e-books. So you get your e-book, no extra cost. You also had to do a proctored final. So they actually do that on their computer, which is cool. They have to have a camera, a person on the other end. We pay a company to do the proctoring. So they have a proctored final, so they know it's them. They have an e-book. In some cases, they have labs. We even have science classes with labs. And all of that for $195 a class. Total.
Compared to what was the average cost
no fees,
for
no nothing. Oh, $200-$300. If you went over to the community college, it's going to run you a couple $100 plus $200-$300 plus you have all your fees.
Oh, it's more than that.
Well, go to a major university, you're paying anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a class.
My wife is
No, that's per credit hour.
my wife's taken a couple of classes at UT Dallas.
Okay.
And she just finished one in the last semester, and it was $2,500 for a 3-hour class.
Whoa.
Right.
And that was
So $195 sounds really
it sounds
cheap.
sounds like that might be pretty good.
And it would probably transfer to UT Dallas.
All right, we are going to take our first break, and we will be right back after this. We are back talking to Tricia Seymour and Rusty Barrier at Ed4Credit.com, and you can check them out online, ed4credit.com. So you guys are creating these classes, and they're $195. That includes the books. That just seems amazingly low compared to the numbers that we're seeing people having to pay for. And you know, what I mentioned before with $2,500 for a 3-hour class, that was at a public university. That's not even a private university. So I can't imagine what that must be. Much, much more. What percentage, you mentioned that some universities don't transfer all the credit in. Is there a percentage that you can say, X percent do, or?
I really can't. The majority, I will tell you, probably will not take 2 years worth of credits, simply because each school does its own thing.
Is that because it's an online and they don't think that it's as valid?
No, it's just, even if you went to, let's say you're going to UTD and you start out at Collin, they're going to look at, they'll say, we'll take these classes, but you're going to have to take these again here at UTD because we believe ours are better.
Every school has the right to decide what they pick. And so it has nothing to do with us or not, online or not being a college. It's completely up to the school as to what they'll take and not take. And every school has their own guidelines.
Yeah, I mean, my kids both went to Collin College, the community college in our area, and they did the dual credit for high school and college. And my son was able to transfer in as a sophomore.
Right.
So he actually only did 3 years of college, quote, true college. My daughter ended up, finishing high school in 3 years, and so then she had 4 full years. But she had some college at Collin College. So I don't remember having any problem getting them accepted, but they didn't have as much as, they didn't have 2 full years either.
Right.
There are a few schools who'll take up to 90 credits, which would pretty much bring you in as a senior, but that's very limited as to those that will. And there are some schools that will take only, a handful of classes, and then they want you to do everything else with them. So it just depends on the school.
I knew in graduate school you couldn't really transfer. In fact, I tried to transfer in a graduate school because I got relocated, with my company twice. And I couldn't get any. I mean, they would say we won't transfer even a single hour, which I was pretty shocked at. So it took me a long time to finish my MBA as a result, longer than it should have. But at undergrad, I didn't realize it was as big a challenge as this to get them transferred.
It's not as hard. It's harder, as you said, with grad school. It's not as hard in undergrad, but it still exists. And they each still have They each can say, you know, our accrediting board is different. We like ours better than yours. You know, I mean, they can say whatever they want. They're autonomous.
Well, and part of it, too, is a learning curve for the universities. They're very familiar with the CLEP test.
Right.
So you can CLEP out of anything. But for a private company to be, in essence, I'll use the word accredited, but it's really not. It's recommended by the American Council on Education, is new to them. So
or newer,
even though it's been around for 5 or 6 years in the education world, that's yesterday.
So is there how does somebody navigate that if they're going to come sign up for classes, whether it's from your service or from a community college or from whatever source? How can they know in advance that that's going to be accepted by wherever they intend to end up?
One, they have to work very closely with their counselor coming into the university, because they're the ones who can look at their transcripts and see what they have and say, okay, you can bring this, you can bring this. If they have challenges to that, meaning that they've said you can't take this class in, you have to take it again, then they're going to have to probably work with the dean of the department and say, here's what it is, provide transcript, the background of what's in the class.
Sometimes.
And a syllabus, yeah.
Right. They sometimes can get it approved with a syllabus if they get that far.
But
Guidance counselors normally your first line, and they're 90% of the time who the students are dealing with.
And are those people going to be willing to talk to a student who says, all right, I'm just finishing high school and I intend to go to pick a university, SMU, UTA, University of Dallas, whatever, for my 4-year degree, but I want to go do my first 2 years at Collin College, at Ed4Credit.com, at wherever. Will the guidance counselor at the University of Dallas, UTD, SMU, work with them at that point to say, yes, we'll accept that, or no, we won't?
Generally, a yes or no answer like that, you can get that from them.
Okay.
You're talking about Dallas schools and Collin College, so they all know each other at this point.
Well, I'm really talking about Ed4Credit.
I know,
of course.
But you're using that as an example. Whereas if you're going to Collin College and you're going to, say, Stanford is where you want to transfer to, you're going to have a little more of a conflict in there.
Gotcha.
Part of what we're doing with Ed4Credit is we are actually educating the colleges. We're currently working on getting direct articulation agreements with them so they know our name, so that when they hear Ed4Credit, they don't have to go, oh, yeah, well, we need to go talk to ACE and we need to do this. And they know us. And we have several that we're already in that process with.
Well, I know that a lot of universities are already rewriting their admission requirements for homeschool.
Right.
Correct.
We homeschooled our kids through high school. And, of course, when you get into high school, there's a lot more, the term homeschool sounds like you have the kid in a chair or at a table at your home actually doing everything, which is not actually the way it works.
No, right.
It's more that you're home coordinating their education because they can go to co-ops, they can go to private tutoring, they can go to the community college. There's a lot of things that they have the option. So a lot of schools are having to rearrange or rewrite their admissions. I got to believe that your service would appeal to the homeschool community in a huge way.
And actually, we have 3 different markets that we deal with. One is the adult, which is what we started with, that wants to go back. The other is the actual college student that just needs a credit in the summer or something like that. But the biggest one that we actually work with is the homeschool community. And because they're already used to thinking outside the box, so there's not a whole lot of need to explain that we're different than the normal path, because they're all like, yeah, I like that.
We're already
different than the normal path. So I would say the majority actually of our customers of our students are homeschooled students.
And are they still in the high school?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A lot of them are high school students, right?
Interesting.
Well, a couple things. One is that our classes are competency-based and self-directed. So what that means is we provide the curriculum and we provide a timeline. They have 4 months in order to complete their class, but they can go through it as quickly as they want or as slowly as they want. And so it also appeals a lot to the homeschool student who might have a disability.
Yes.
Because they now don't have to keep up with the class. They're working at their own pace and doing it at the time and when they feel good or at the time they can. So we have it set up so that competency-based basically means if you're good at the first section, you get through it really fast. So let's say you already know a little bit about intro to psych. You can like fly through chapter 1, take the quiz, and move on to chapter 2 whenever you're ready. And if you get to chapter 2 and it's something you don't really know, maybe you're in now statistics, or we have pre-calculus, maybe you're in there and you're like, I'm struggling a little bit, then you can take your time. So it's competency-based and self-paced. And a lot of students really like that. And again, it appeals to the homeschool market because they're already used to doing it at their own speed.
Absolutely. So what happens if I'm in, you mentioned pre-calc, what if I'm in that class and I get stuck and I just can't figure it out by watching the class online and my books and stuff? Do you have some service where they can call somebody and talk about it, or do they figure it out some other way?
We make recommendations for tutors and tutors who are online, as well as tutors in their area. Because we have faculty, but they're more of a customer support faculty. They do have degrees in the area. They can answer basic questions, but they aren't really teaching the subject.
Yeah.
So they're there to grade the papers, and of course we have like English comp. So if there's something you need to fix, the instructor will say, "Hey, redo this section." They'll work with the student, but they're not really teaching it in the same way you would if you went to the school.
Yeah.
Keeping the price point at $195 for 3 credit hours inclusive kind of limits some of the things.
I was thinking that
do.
as I was asking the question, I'm like, you're an idiot for asking this question.
The price point
There's
doesn't
no
allow
way.
it, right? But when you're only paying $195 for 3 college credits, you have a little extra in cash. You can go hire your tutor.
I mean, having that tutor can make such a difference because, like in homeschooling, when my son was in chemistry class, it had been a long time since I'd taken chemistry, and I did well at it, but I had lost most of that. And my wife never felt as competent in the sciences.
Right.
Well, one of our best friends is a professor of chemistry at SMU.
There you go.
So we called up Doc's son and said, Doc, can you talk to Carson for a minute?
Right.
And it was amazing. They ended up staying on the phone for 20 minutes. And whenever they finished the phone call, our son came back into the room where we were and said, that guy's a genius. Actually, he literally is.
He probably is.
He literally is. MIT,
right. I'm betting
PhD.
He
Yeah,
is.
he's a genius. And anyway, it was pretty funny. But he just knew how to explain it in a way that I never could. Even if I understood it myself, I couldn't have communicated it in that way. And it was just amazing. So those tutors can be incredible.
Well, and some of the tutor companies now have whiteboards that they can do the problem with you. I mean, they're pretty sophisticated as well if you don't know somebody locally to help you out.
Interesting.
Well, and one of the things that are available now that's also funded by the Gates Foundation originally is the Khan Academy.
Oh, yes.
And that's a huge resource for anyone who gets stuck and is having trouble with a specific thing. And they started out with math, but he's expanded so far beyond that now.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and also, I mean, YouTube is amazing. I mean, anything I ever need to know, I just type it into YouTube and see what comes back.
The University of YouTube. YouTube
really
University.
Is.
Yeah, I know.
It really is. I can't believe how much is out there for free. Now, it's not accredited. You can't use that. I mean, it has its place.
But it's supplemental.
But it's not. It's supplemental. Exactly. That's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
So how many students go through your program a year or a semester or whatever?
I don't know, a few thousand, I would say. So in reality, with the amount of classes we have and the amount of students we have every year going through, we really are equal to a smaller school, smaller college.
A private school.
A private college, a small private college.
Well, I think the last time I looked, it was probably around 1,500 to 1,800 that are enrolled for a year. And again, you're looking at a normal small school.
That's a decent small private college.
It is.
Have you had a successful career selling to businesses? Maybe tired of having your income limited by arbitrary compensation plans that penalize you for selling more? If so, you should consider tenant representation, a specialty within commercial real estate. At Riata Commercial Realty, Inc., we represent companies and nonprofits that occupy office buildings and warehouses. There is no limit on income, and the more you produce, the higher percentage you keep. If selling houses at night and on weekends sounds good to you, don't call us. But if you want to work business hours, have unlimited income, and leverage the relationships you already have, we want to talk to you. Please visit us at texastenantrep.com. That's Texas, Texas, tenant, TENANT rep.com.
Welcome back to The Next Level. We're talking to Rusty Barrier and Tricia Seymour of Ed4Credit.com. Check them out online, Ed4Credit.com. The 4 is a numeral 4. So you guys have what equates to a small private college going through your program every semester, every year, which is pretty impressive. I'm pretty impressed by that. But how did you get it to that size? I mean, how do you market this so that people find you?
That's a great question. One of the things that has been successful for us has been finding channel partners.
Oh.
So in all the businesses that we do and have and education and all that, it's that if we can find the channel partners who are heavily invested in those industries, then we don't have to invest as much money in marketing.
Okay.
So not that we don't, we do, but we don't have to be the forefront. We have to be the push. They're pushing because they have sales teams. One of the things that we've joked about, we don't have a sales team.
Wow.
We have a few people who are in sales for us that answer phones.
Yes.
And we have a chat on our website that people will chat with you and answer your questions and get you to sign up. But it's not
it's inbound sales,
right.
not outbound
It's not
sales.
an outbound. Right. We're not buying leads. We're not calling thousands of people. It's literally because we have channel partners, and we've been really successful with that.
So give me an example. What kind of a channel partner do you have?
We have one company in this, and I don't want to name them for
Sure.
Yeah, but what they do is they are working primarily with homeschoolers, and our classes to them are sort of an ancillary product. Their primary product is guiding the student through the process and helping them pick a college and the questions you asked earlier about how do you know what the degree plan is. They're helping them navigate that.
I got you.
Another channel partner for us would be an example of there are high schools that are all online.
Yes.
And a lot of times the homeschool market uses those. Mm-hmm. So online high schools would be a great thing. We have just started something new, so I can't tell you if it's going to work or not. Stonebriar Mall? What's the one?
Yeah, Stonebriar Mall.
Stonebriar Mall.
Frisco, Texas.
Here in Frisco, Texas. We are doing one right now. It's a video. It's a company that we found that was...
Actually, they found us.
They do a great job. They create a little 30-second commercial for you, and they run it in the middle of a mall.
Huh.
And so this first one is running in Wyoming, and it's running in the food court. And so the commercial is very unique because there's not really voiceover. It's just because you might be sitting far away and not hear it. Right. It's very visual with some music if you were up close. And starting in March, they're putting one in Dallas and Frisco, Texas here in Stonebriar Mall. And so we'll see. We'll see how that does. So we do market ourselves. We do things. We're marketing online all the time to drive traffic to the site. But I would say that the majority of our sales across all fronts has been with channel partners.
Well, and we also are in the forums a lot of times where people are chatting about alternative credit and things like that. So we'll go visit those and hang out, and if they're asking questions, we'll answer questions. We can't really promote so much there, but that's about building relationships.
Yeah, you're showing your knowledge and expertise.
Correct.
Yeah, that makes sense. So do you guys use social media very heavily?
Yes.
We do, yes. And we do have someone who runs all of our social media accounts for us, so that makes life a little easier.
We're small. We have about 10 people that are full-time, and then we have contractors and people part-time that we use over that. But
and are all these people local in one office, or are they all spread around the country?
All around the country, from everywhere from, I don't know,
Malone,
upstate New York to Florida to California. Yeah, no, they're all over.
Interesting.
And we, on another side of the business, we had one of our mentors she started out with us in the U.S. She's a military spouse, and right after we hired her, she moved to Japan. So she was working from Japan for us.
That's great.
So.
Yeah, my daughter worked for me for quite a while, and she was doing some of the marketing, newsletter, that kind of stuff. And she went to her freshman year in college in Italy, and she couldn't work while she was there in that country legally.
So
she could work for me online,
Right,
and it was the only way she could make money. It really worked out well for both of us. And man, you got to love that internet, right?
You do.
That is the greatest thing
Right.
for that kind of thing. So with the homeschool market, what we used to do every May, there was a big homeschool book fair. They called it,
Right.
but it was over in Arlington. They took out the Arlington Convention Center, and there would be a few hundred companies that would exhibit
Right.
their
And
curriculum
we've done
all that.
Yep, we've done exhibits at various
Okay.
fairs and various expos, conferences, things like that as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's about. I think one of the things that's important all the time when you own your business is branding. You have to constantly be
Right.
branding yourself, putting yourself out there, letting new people know you exist, and then of course, the customer service of making sure that the existing people want to come back and take more classes.
Is there something that you found is sort of like you mentioned channel partners, of course, so it sounds like that's the thing that works the best for
us.
you. Is there something you've tried that you just were excited about and you knew this was just going to really work well and it just didn't work at all? It just failed on marketing? You're
I'd say there's a
smiling.
lot of things, but
So you've
we've thrown a
experimented
lot
with
of money away. Yeah. I
Haven't
think the
we
biggest
all?
thing we've had a challenge with is PPC, pay per click.
Oh, trying to figure out which words work, or
We have not. I know some people swear by it and they get great results. Maybe it's our market. We've tried different companies. We've tried different things. One of the things that I've done is I've educated myself on PPC so that I could know whether they were doing a good, not to do it myself, but I could know whether they were doing a good job or not. We've tried different amounts of money, different rankings, different words. We have never seen sales.
oh,
We've never broken even. I'll even put it that way. We've always gone in the hole anytime we try PPC. And we've done it, and then we've stopped and gone, that didn't work. And then we wait like 6 months and go, well, let's try again and try something different or find a new company or try different words. We have never been able to, and it may just be our market, we've never been able to break even on pay-per-click.
No,
With Google or Bing. We've tried
Right.
both.
And it doesn't matter the keywords. We'll go pull the same keywords, because you do market research, and you know what your competitors are using and the other people. So you pull the same or similar keywords. Nope, doesn't work.
interesting. So what's the biggest challenge in your business?
At this point, I would say actually educating the public that we're here and that they can use these type of courses towards college.
So it's an education / marketing thing.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
It is.
And how do you actually produce the curriculum, or not the curriculum, but the actual course? If I log on and I take one of your courses, is it all video? Do I see somebody talking to me lecturing, or no?
No, it's actually, we utilize college textbooks. So it might be the same book you'd use at Cullen College or SMU for Intro to Psych. We're using college textbooks. We do have materials in the classes, like some classes have workbooks, some have PowerPoints, just different ancillary materials to help you learn the topic. One of the things we believe is that we're lifelong learners. And so we always include external websites and videos. So it may be a YouTube video. We try to stay away from YouTube, but we try to find meaningful videos and meaningful websites that you can then bookmark later. And so we're looking for things like a series of something, let's say Intro to Psych, a series on Intro to Psych somewhere on the web that you might not find in your normal search. We're trying to find that so that you can bookmark that and go back later if that's a topic you're interested in. So we use external websites and external videos to really try to help the class. We also have in there activities. Our learning management system, which is the classroom where everything sits, is one we developed ourselves. And we included a lot of gamification. Oh. So badges and progress bars and things like that to keep the student involved. And then in each class, we have game-based learning. So you'll have things like a lot of the intro classes have a lot of vocabulary. So you'll have flashcards and hangman and drag and drop and practice quizzes and just a lot of activities you can do.
Yeah.
All of that's optional. Like I said, if you know the topic, you read the chapter, you take the quiz, you move to chapter 2. If you don't know the topic and you need to really get it, then you're going through and you're learning. Okay. So it's whatever works for you. And we know everybody learns differently.
And so some of that supplemental material will answer the question I asked earlier about if I don't quite get it, do I need a tutor? Well, some of your supplemental information will do that too.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
And one of the things that we learned early on, Bob, is to kind of play to the lowest common denominator in terms of technology.
Yeah.
Because, we didn't expect this, but we have students in Africa.
Wow.
All right. So they're taking a class on their cell phone. Right. So you're not going to be able to they're not high-speed internet. So if they're watching a video, all they're seeing is, the little circle going round and round.
So you can't require that.
Is that what constitutes a slow learner?
No, I don't think the learner's slow.
Slow something, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
One of the things we hope to do in the future is to add a little more lecture type things, maybe short little 15-minute videos. Some might be a talking head, an actual person talking, but some are probably going to be more, I'll say animated. Not like we're doing animation, but more a video with a voiceover. And that way, if you're more auditory, you can learn that way. If you're more visual, more kinesthetic, you get lots of different opportunities to learn.
Yeah, I would think the learning style of the individual makes a big difference as to how they want to consume that content and have it stick with them.
Correct.
And that's got to be a challenge for you to how do you address all of those?
And that's it. We just try to put a different. I won't say we throw it all in there because we don't. It's very organized and it's very easy for the student to know what's next and what to do next. But we put a variety of things in each module, not just in the class. So module 1 might be chapter 1 in the book. And we're putting lots of different options in that module for them to be able to learn that same material.
And part of the advantage we have is we work together, and we are very different learning styles. All right, Tricia would be the person who goes into the class and she's going to go through every single item that's in there. I'm the person who will walk in, and if I can pass the test, I'm done.
Okay, well, we're done with this segment, so we're going to take a quick break. Be right back. We are back talking to Tricia Seymour and Rusty Berrier at Ed4Credit.com. They're an online accredited learning system. And one of the things I was thinking about when we were talking earlier was I've seen some of these, I've heard, I should say, not seen, but I've heard about some of these schools, universities, pretty prestigious names that have basically said, here's all of our lectures, we're putting it all on the web for free. So if somebody's going to do that, if they're going to do that, and they have, quote, the name behind them, how do you guys compete with that?
Well, one of the things that comes up with that, Bob, is simply that they may be putting their lectures online, but they're not putting the class online. So you can go, and edX is a perfect example of this.
Which is MIT's and
Harvard. Yeah. The idea of that is anyone around the world can learn the material, but you still have to enroll at the university and take the tests and everything to get credit for it. Now, there are some schools that are looking at this that are saying, okay, well, if you've taken this class, you can take a test with us and we'll give you credit for it. But you're still looking at some level enrolling in the school. Free education is a wonderful concept. Because we are a capitalist country, though, there's always caveats that go with that.
Sure.
One, I think Alabama is experimenting with this, if I'm correct. It may have been Tennessee. I'm not sure which one it is. But they are saying, yes, you can go to junior or community college for free, but you have to be at a certain income level. You have to have a certain grade point. You have to maintain the grade point. It's not just truly free.
Well, and then they still have to buy the books and pay the fees. So textbooks are anywhere from $100 to $200 or more.
Yeah.
And so, again, you can get our entire class for less than what most textbooks are. And then you still have to pay, as you said, the fees to get into the school and the fees for this and the fees for that.
Well, and I can take your class at midnight.
You can online, at home, in your
that.
bathrobe.
I can't do that anywhere else.
Oh, right.
So really the accreditation is, or that getting credit for that class is the big thing.
Correct.
You can learn anything you want online or in books or at the library. I mean, there's a lot of places you can go learn anything, and you probably learn it very proficiently. But to prove that up to someone else and then say, I have a degree so I can get that job, that's not necessarily.
A little bit different.
Yeah, quite a bit different.
More pieces involved.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So what's one of the biggest opportunities in your industry right now?
Biggest opportunities. Again, For us personally, the opportunity is really to make a difference in the lives of people who are coming to us for the classes. And we've covered that. If you're coming out of school $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 in debt, you have actually hamstrung yourself for quite a few years.
Yeah.
So the opportunity for us is well, in terms of business focus on that, I would say that the tuition assistance programs that a lot of corporations have would be a phenomenal opportunity for us to move into, and we are looking at that. Sometimes they're giving away, $5,000+ a year for their employees to go further their education. Well, if you do it at $195 a class, that $5,000 is going to go a lot farther than it would if you're paying, $500 a class.
I'm glad you said that, because I think that's got to be a serious opportunity, because when I went and got my MBA in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, most of my classmates were engineers whose companies were sending them to school, and they were paying everything.
And they were paying
100% of their tuition, their books, their fees, 100% of everything. I was paying 100% of it myself, so I was very resentful of those people.
But you do hear about all the corporations now that are stepping up, from anywhere from Walmart to Starbucks to, they're across the board, that are saying we have to train our people and we have to offer more perks.
But I'm hearing that they're not offering tuition reimbursement or tuition degrees like they used to.
No,
they're not sending
like
people.
They used to.
And in fact, I'm told that they have to pay for it themselves. And if they're successful, if they pass the class, then they will get reimbursed up to a certain dollar amount.
Right.
But the days where somebody said, yeah, go to SMU, go to any private school you wanted to, that's kind of over.
Right.
So I would think that the opportunity is that when companies hear about what you guys have to offer, they say, yeah, go get your degree, but start here.
And one of the biggest industries where there's an opportunity for this is healthcare. You have a lot of frontline workers, and especially, healthcare and elder care both, because now you have certified nursing assistants who really have no degree. Those are the ones who are taking care of, mom and dad for you in the retirement center. And they want to further their education. So this is a place that they can now begin, retaining those very high turnover employees by offering something that's extraordinarily cost effective to get them into, say, a nursing degree instead of just a nursing assistant.
Well, and one of the things is, with the unemployment being, so
low,
with unemployment being so low, it does affect colleges all the way across the board, and people aren't enrolling as much because they have a job. But now if you say to the employer, who healthcare, again, being one of the areas that we're in as well, is they have very high turnover, because they may not offer, Hospital A may not offer as many perks as Hospital B. And so they get their money, their sign-on bonus or whatever from Hospital A. They do a year or two, and then they go to Hospital B because they've got more perks over there. So it's more the employee now has the opportunity to go where they want.
Yeah.
And the employer has a harder time finding the quality employees they need. So retention of those employees, I think you're going to see more perks coming back to the businesses, because they went away for a while. All extra perks, as you said, education, everything kind of went away. They are starting to come back because the employers understand that they have to do something different to keep their staff.
Well, we had Jim Tolbert, the CEO of Vista College, on the show a year or two ago, and he talked about the counter-cyclical nature of education, and when the economy is rocking and doing well, it really is hard for higher education to survive, especially the kinds that are focused on trades, vocations, that kind of thing, associate's degrees, all that kind of thing is much more difficult, because those kind of folks that are going to be in those programs are employed.
Have jobs.
They have jobs and they don't feel the need. But as soon as there's a downturn in the economy and people start getting laid off, all of a sudden enrollment spikes.
Right.
So
and
they're
we've
trying
seen
to
the same cycle, exact same cycle. So
they're trying to ride that during the good times.
Exactly.
It's kind of interesting. So what's one of the major threats facing the industry overall, not just you individually? I guess that would probably be the counter-cyclical.
The cyclical, the cost.
It's got to be highly regulated. Just dealing with all the regulations got to be a big challenge as well.
Well, that's the American Council on Education. That's our
trade association or
accreditation, I would say,
Okay.
but you have to go through that. And we have to go through that regularly. That's not a one-time, one-and-done deal. That's an ongoing,
Right.
very costly thing for us to go through.
It's
So
every
what's-
3 years.
Every 3 years. Oh, wow. So what's a risk that you guys, a business risk that was real scary that just turned out to be scary and failed?
Well, and we haven't said this yet. Rusty and I are actually married, so we're together.
That's your biggest risk?
24/7. That's
Yes.
the biggest risk is you're married. Oh my word. We, as I mentioned earlier, we actually had our own LMS, our own learning management system designed because we had unique needs, and so we paid a lot of money to a couple who we had talked to, and we thought they could do the job, who didn't.
Oh, no.
And I think one of the things we learned was we have to, I don't need to know how to code, but I definitely need to understand very clearly what I want and what I expect of you, and especially when you're hiring contract workers, because we're small. We wasted probably, I don't know, $100,000, $150,000,
than that.
$150,000, $200,000 down the tubes because we had to just chunk what they did.
And so what's your advice?
And then start again. So we had to make another one. So now ours is great now. But
So how did you, on the second time around, how did you make sure that you didn't, what did you do specifically differently to make sure that the coders were going to deliver what you really wanted?
We became better informed.
Right.
Right, and that's the main thing. And this is the biggest risk, I think, for any entrepreneur is not knowing what you don't know.
Uh-huh.
And unfortunately, the way you find that out is you trip over it. So we went in and we learned, they were doing it in .NET. The original one, which is the way they did it was very brittle, is the only way I know how to describe that.
Meaning they would fix something and 10 other things would break. And it wasn't easy to add something new or change. So we realized we needed to do it more modularly.
Gotcha.
So we just educated ourselves on the concepts of the coding and the concepts of the process. And we ended up doing it in PHP, changing the coding and all that. But so I think that's it. The biggest lesson of everything I think we've learned is that, you might have a passion for something, and that's what you really love, but you don't really care about bookkeeping, and you don't really care about coding, or you don't really care. You're still going to have to learn. I now know more about social media than I ever thought I would. I might not do our social media, but I now know enough that I can manage our social media and the people that do it. Whereas if you don't know anything about it and you just go, oh, you take care of that, we've spent a lot of money on people.
One of the things I've heard about in coding specifically is to give somebody a sort of a small project and say, all right, let's do that.
Right. And we
let's
did
see
that
how you
with
turn
this
that.
next person.
Okay.
Right. And that's exactly what we did.
Start small and then let it grow.
We started on something that we started on something that was smaller and already existed, and we just needed some tweaks, and they did a good job, and then a little more and a little more. And now that person is not a contractor. They now work for us full time. So that's the other difference was the company we hired first had a bunch of other contracts. We were only one of many, and so we felt like one of many.
Yeah.
So
what's next for Ed4Credit? What do you see in the future?
Well, one, we just need to keep getting our name out there and growing. That's the main thing. The more sales you have, the better the business grows and the more you can expand. We're going to be going back through the accreditation process in October of this year. So we are looking at adding a few more upper level courses.
Okay.
And some language courses.
Oh.
We're making a deal with Rosetta Stone.
Wow.
And
That's a big
putting
name.
together some language courses so that you can get
I wish you had that up already because I'm leaving to go to Germany
Spanish,
on
German,
Saturday.
and French. There you go.
Well, thanks so much for being our guest today. Listeners, please go to ed4credit.com, ed4credit.com to learn more. To learn more about the show, go to thenextlevelshow.com or find us on social media, on podcasts, on YouTube. Just type in The Next Level Show. Be back next week with another great guest. Bye.
Thank you.
Right.